This is Steve Schiffman. I want to thank you very much for joining me today in this webinar podcast that we produce for you. If you're a salesperson, to help you grow as a salesperson. If you're a manager, to help you motivate your salespeople to do better, and also to help you a little bit as a manager. I think managers have the most difficult job on the face of the earth, and I'll tell you why. A manager has to work with their salespeople, but at the same time, they're responsible to management. So they're kind of crushed in between. Got to get it done from management, got to get it from salespeople. So it's a never-ending kind of pressure that goes on. And I really respect those of you who have made it as a manager. A lot of salespeople, a lot of managers don't make it. Salespeople want to become managers. But when they get there, they go, wait, what am I doing? So I do credit you for doing that. Today, I want to talk to you about the sales meeting, because I think as I listen to my clients that I coach, they're not doing necessarily the best job they can in the sales meeting they go on. Now, there's a number of reasons that I think that happens. Number one, they don't have a daily, simple sales routine. That is, they don't do the same thing every day. Whether that's when they meet people, whether how they get there, whether it's putting notes together, CRM, whatever, they don't do it the same. There's no same habit. They need that. The reason you need that is so you know when you're going to make the move with the salesperson, with the prospect. So it's like, and I really equate it to this, it's like catching a ball. When somebody throws you a ball, you don't think about it. In fact, if you thought about it, you wouldn't catch it. So what happens is you have to be aware of what you're going to say when you go on a sales call and how you create that rapport that we all talk about. You have to know what you're going to say, how you're going to do it. And that has to be habit. That has to be every single time the same thing. Because if you go in and reinvent it each time, it's going to go all over the place. First thing, number one, is what information do you need? That is, what are you trying to get from that person? I want a lot of information, and I get a lot of information, but I want a lot of information. And why do I want it? Because I need it in order to say to myself, this is what we should do together, he or she and I. In other words, here's my plan. Well, it's based upon what they do, so I have to understand that. The more information I get, the better off I am. So I start off literally every sales meeting with the same thing. I start off by saying, Mr. Prospect or Miss Prospect, before we get going, would it just help if I tell you a little about me and my company? Now, just listen to that. Would it help if I tell you a little about me and my company before we get started? Inevitably, the person says yes, because there's no threat there. And so I go ahead and talk about my company and say how long I've been in business and what we do, what I've done. And then I go, hey, I'm just curious, how long have you been at this company? That's all I do. Oh, I'm just curious, how long have you been at this company? Oh, I'm just curious, how long have you been vice president? Oh, I'm just curious, how long have you been manager? How long have you been? Doesn't make any difference. I just simply say the same thing. I'm just curious how long, because that tells me something about the person. Well, I've been with here for 44 years. Well, that's different than 44 days. And you know that. But I need to know that. I also need to know something about the person, right? They have kids, they have children, what's the thing? Why are they here? How did they get to Montana? And what are they doing here in Montana? I mean, if you don't ask those questions, you'll never know. And therefore, your meeting is kind of wasted. You really want to get to know the person that you're speaking to. Now, I get criticized sometimes. People say, no, you can't say that. Yes, you can. I've been saying that for 40 years. I go in, I sit down with somebody and say, I'm just curious, how long you've been with this company? How did you get to be a senior vice president? Is it what you expected? Yes, I say that because I really want to know. And if you really want to know, you will know. You will find out. So therefore, the first thing is make a list of the questions and list of the questions you want to know. All right. Having said that, you've got to put together now the wording so it comes out more comfortably, more natural. So how do you approach the person? I like to say, before we get going, will it just help if I tell you about me and my company? Usually they say yes to that because it's non-threatening. You don't have to say that necessarily, but you could. And if you said it that way, you'll get an answer similar to what I get. They'll go, yeah, why not? They'll always say that because it's easy. It's easy to say that. Right? So that's the two things. One is how to open that and get into the conversation, but then one of the questions. Don't do what I've seen, have a list of questions on a piece of paper. I've seen that, and you've been taught that. Some of you have, where, write down, don't do that. It's ridiculous. For example, my favorite is somebody was on a sales call with me. They came in to see me. And the guy said to me, it was a guy, and he said to me, he said, well, are you going to do this and this? And I said, no. And he wrote down the word no. And I'm dying to know. So I said, can I just see your paper? And he showed me the pad. And on the pad, there was nothing on it except the word no. And I always wondered, what was he going to do with that no? Take it home? Show somebody? I said, no. I don't know. Anyway, so that's kind of the stuff I think about. Anyway, so I want you to start to think about how you open your sales meeting. What are the key questions? But more than what are the key questions, what do you need them for? In other words, what do they tell you that are going to let you know something about the particular company, individual that you're selling to? For example, if you're in the insurance industry, question you want to know, have you ever met with anybody like me before? Oh, and if you're selling concrete, you can say that too. Have you ever met with somebody like me before? Oh, if you're selling paper, have you ever met with a paper supplier like me before? Oh, have you ever met with somebody who cuts wood like me before? Oh, have you ever met, you hear it? Do you hear that phrase will work for virtually everything? Have you ever met with somebody like me before? Oh, you did? Why? What happened? Oh, he didn't deliver. No kidding. Oh, too bad. What else? So what did you do? Do you see what happens? You see what happens? Look, I'll give you just a simple example. In the oil lubricant divisions, and lubricants are all over, there's lubes every place. What we know is somebody, having trained people like that for a long time, is that somebody who orders asphalt immediately with a demanding presence, it's like, I gotta have it now, has a credit problem. Because he has a supplier, but if he can't get supply right away, he's in trouble. So he calls you and says, I got to have it right away. You never heard of him before, never bought from me before. There's a credit problem. Follow that? Anyway, I want you to give some thought to this. And I'll come back on this later. We'll talk about it. But the point that I want you to understand is I want you to know the questions and what do they tell you? If someone says, oh yeah, I meet with everybody every day who calls me, what would you say to yourself? I might say, why? Why would somebody meet with every salesperson who ever called them? Why? There are people that do that. Supermarket people, product people do it all the time, but that's the job. Somebody construction, maybe not. Anyway, all right, we'll talk again. If you need help, you want some more information about how to do this better, please give me a call or write to me, email. We'll be glad to do 20 minutes free. No problem. Okay. So this is Steve Schiffman. I want to thank you for joining me today. And as always, your presence is humbling.